sports education was non-existent. Literally non-existent. Not a single lecture, not a single anything. I mean, I think that's what. So I mean, I put a lot of the blame on the schools, because I mean, so much of what we do in outpatient physical therapy is therapeutic exercise or progression of stuff. And I kid you not, I don't know what yours was, but the extent of the exercises we got was clamshells, bridges, ankle pumps. That's it.
My two favorite questions that I love to get into, but kind of the heavier questions. And the first one of the two is, in your opinion, why do you think re-tear rates are so high?
I think it's our fault. I think it comes on PTs. I mean, I think if you look at the PT profession as a whole, I mean, I'm very vocal with the point. I'm not a fan of physical therapy as a whole. I think it's a broken profession. I think what goes on a daily basis in your typical clinics, it's disgusting. Because I mean, you can pretty much, I think you're the same way. You can have an athlete come in and you can pretty much say exactly what they were probably doing in their clinic to a T, and they'll look at you like you're a genius. Like, how did you know that? It's because it's so cookie cutter, and it's so bad. So I mean, that's what I said before. I mean, you use these protocols where it's written by a doc who hasn't rehabbed an ACL, probably hasn't looked at the newest ACL research or anything, and it's 6 months to return to sport. And great, these PTs they're seeing these people at this stage. Okay, you're good to go back. And like you said, there's no ramp up, there's no build up, no one's getting loaded because there's not a squat rack in 90% of the physical therapy clinics that exist. Athletes just aren't being prepared for that. I think social media has done a good job of showing a different side of physical therapy to a lot of these athletes now. So I think things can help trend in the right direction, but I think just the way physical therapy is packaged as a whole, that's the problem.
Yeah, I think spot on. And I think that the other thing with social media, like yours, like I know like a lot of people utilize your social media as far as like learning different exercise and understanding your thought process behind it, is that it also helps clinicians who care a little more. When did you graduate PT school?
I was 2014.
Okay, so you and I were really close. I graduated in 15. And I feel like when we were in PT school, PT Instagrams were not a thing. It just didn't exist,
Yeah.
like Teddy was kind of the first wave of that started it. And then, like you and I, and like there are a couple other people that kind of started hopping on board. And that's why we have a little bit bigger following and stuff. And nowadays everybody has a PT Instagram, which I think is honestly kind of cool because it just shows that this profession is moving slowly in the right direction and people are just becoming more aware of it. And even before you and I hopped on, I told you that I connected with a student that recommended me interview you, even though I was going to anyway. And he was just saying how like he appreciated everything that you're putting out as far as like, again, what true sports physical therapy looks like. And again, like just like you said, the athletes can see it too, because like, oh wow, like Bobby's doing that stuff. I was like, I'm still doing straight leg raises and it's 12 weeks post-op, and it's like, wow, like instead you post your 12-week post-op who's back squatting, a buck 15 or something like that. It's real stuff. Like the difference between the two is so mind boggling. And even just, I got a referral for an ACL. She was 5.5 months post-op. Something I really like to ask is like, walk me through your most recent PT session. Like, just because I want to get a feel for it. And then I also ask, like, what is the most challenging quad exercise that, like simple stuff. And I kid you not, I asked her and she told me the hardest quad exercise was a TRX squat. And I was just so mind blown, like no thought process. And I'm a big fan of educating patients on how to rehab, because at the end of the day, like if something happened and like I couldn't go into the facility, like you should be able to replicate what I'm doing. Maybe not to the same intensity levels and all that kind of stuff, but you should understand like, oh yeah, we're trying to hit at least 4 quad exercises. We're trying to go heavy. You should understand like the RPE scale, like again, basic fundamental stuff that ends up making a big difference. Like it's crazy to me how people come to me 6 months and they don't know what a Bulgarian split squat is. And it's like, that's a pretty commonly used exercise, or like a pistol or a skater squat, like all these unilateral loading stuff that should be done much earlier. And yes, again, starting at body weight and then gradually progressing, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just crazy how there's no, and I think my big thing is that, again, ACL rehab is arguably one of the most complex injuries musculoskeletal wise, that we will see. And there's no education on it. You think back to when you were
Zero.
a new, yeah, when you and I were new grads, what do we happen? You get your first ACL. It's like, here you go, Bobby. And then here you go, here's our protocol. Here you go, Bobby, get them back. And that's it.
Yep.
And I still reflect on
Yeah.
it sometimes. And that's just like, did I screw anyone up? And
Oh,
probably,
absolutely.
unfortunately,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
I
just,
mean,
it's a tough pill to swallow, but I think that's why I really appreciate people like you who are doing ACL rehab the right way. And there's more people like that. And I think that, again, we are using our platforms that we were giving to try to push it in the right direction. But I'm in full agreement with you is that PTs need to do a better job. And I was talking to Mike from the prehab guys, and he was saying how like some of it is like it is their fault, but it's also not, because like this is what they're told is the norm. Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying. I mean, school. I don't know. Where'd you go to PT school?
Franklin Pierce in New Hampshire.
Okay. I don't know how yours was, but Maryland sports education was non-existent. Literally non-existent. Not a single lecture, not a single anything. I mean, I think that's what. So I mean, I put some of the blame on a lot of the blame on the schools, because I mean, so much of what we do in outpatient physical therapy is therapeutic exercise or progression of stuff. And I kid you not, I don't know what yours was, but the extent of the exercises we got was clamshells, bridges, ankle pumps. That's it.
Yeah.
Straight leg raises, the 4 straight leg raises. Like that's all you learn. And like I'll sit there and I'll tell, like, obviously you grow close to your patients. I'll tell my patients that all the time, like, this is what we learned in school. Like this is all that they taught us. And they're like, you're kidding me. I was like, no, I said PT school it's a lot different than you think it is. So I mean, even from an education standpoint, that stuff has to change, because I think that's setting up a lot of these failures that you see as well.
Yeah, and I think that's why the whole social media like movement is becoming so cool now, because we didn't have that. Like our TheraX classes were, like you said, like they weren't great. They don't teach you a whole lot and how to be creative and changing up like rep ranges and set ranges and like when to go heavier, when to go volume based. It's just they don't teach you any of this stuff, and it's hard because schools, their job at the end of the day is to prepare you for passing the boards. That's all they really care about, is the numbers of passing the board, your success rate, first time success rate, all that kind of stuff. And I understand that that's the priority, but I think like, certain schools, like if you can offer a like specialized sports program and make it an elective, not everyone's got to take it. Not everyone's interested in sports. If you want to do acute care, then don't go to that class. But I think like you should be able to offer something, or even at the end of the day, I think that, again, if we had time or people reached out to us, like we would be willing to do like even like a guest lecture for like an hour for a class, and just to expose some of these students to like, again, our world of sports rehab and how it's very different. And I think when I was working in the more traditional model, I always thought I was a sports PT. And then I got to healthy ball and I was like, I knew nothing. And it's humbling. But at the same time, like Teddy took the time to sit down and mentor me and teach me. And like, I'm sure you had people that taught you too. And your head was in a book and just watching videos and learning.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes to actually get to the level of, this level that we're at as far as seeing athletes. Cause I think that's a lot of people going to PT school saying like, I want to work with athletes. That's, I bet you had a ton of classmates, but I'm also guessing that a ton of your classmates aren't in the same situation as you are, because maybe they're not willing to work for it, or they think they're doing whatever sports PT already is. It's the whole grind concept that's not really there.
And I think that's the big piece. I mean, for all the kids who are graduating and new grads is like, take it on yourself. Like, I mean, I always look at things in blocks. Like when I graduate from PT school, where do I want to be in 5 years? Right? What did I want to do? Okay, what can I do now to set myself up for that? Like how can I get there? Because I mean, no lie, my first job, I wore a shirt and tie to work every day. If I wanted someone to do plyos, I was in such a small facility. I had to take the ceiling tiles out of the thing so the guy's head wouldn't go through the roof. But it's like you said, I mean, and I say this to anyone who DMs me, reaches out, and say, read as much as you can, try to surround yourself with good people, and just, like I said, build who you want to be, have an idea. I mean, the one good thing I'll say about physical therapy is, if the job you want doesn't exist, you can make it, and you can create your own. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, and I think networking is really, really big when it comes to like the whole sports world too. And we have strength coaches at Healthy Baller, and I have learned a ton from them too. Just watching them do their, their deceleration, reactive work, and when I watch
Hmm.
them, like they're doing it from more of a performance standpoint, and I'm kind of just spinning it to look at like when can I implement this in their ACL
Yep.
rehab,
Take
and it's
pieces
just
of that and
yeah, and you can't put a price on that kind of stuff. And like at first when I went to go, like before I even started working at Healthy Baller, I just went into Shadow Teddy, like, once every couple of weeks just to pick his brain about stuff. And that's when I really started to get exposed to like what real sports rehab looks like. And I think that's when kind of a light bulb went on. I was like, oh, this is it. And honestly, that's what even Teddy's Instagram was one of the first things that inspired me to be like, wow, like this is sports rehab. And I was like, I want to get to that point and just develop a relationship with Teddy. And then again, like the rest is history for me at this
hmm
point. And I always tell people this, and I don't say it just because like I'm in it, but like if I can do it, and I think you would probably say the same thing, like a lot of people can do it too, but you got to be willing to work for it. Like we talked about
gotta
earlier, where
work.
you just a lot of hours, a lot of grind work, and it's not for everybody, which is okay. Some people just want to go to that 9 to 5, clock out, go home, and that's it, which is perfectly fine. Like it's not for everybody.
Uh-huh.
Like a lot of people don't understand the sacrifices of time, like like
Yes.
eating dinner at 8:30 p.m. Uh,
Yes. Yes.
uh,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I think you hit the nail on the head because I think every kid does want to do sports PT, but if you look at, I mean, geez, I haven't worked at even a 40-hour week in probably even before I opened my own business, but probably 4 years.
mm,
You just have to, you kind of have to be obsessive about it, to get to where you want to go. And like you said, seek out opportunities. The harder you work, the more opportunities that will generally come your way. And then when you get those opportunities, then it's on you.
yeah,
Make the most of them. Some you'll kill, or maybe a few you won't, but um, hard work solves all.
yeah, yeah. And the last question that I want to ask you, again, just talking about ACL rehab, we kind of already touched base on this before, and I figured we were kind of just dive into a lot of this stuff. But in your opinion, what do you think has to change in order to improve these re-tear rates?
um, I think the education in schools, it needs to change. Um, I think too many of the people who are teaching haven't been in a clinical setting in a decade plus. And then add on top of that the fact that they've probably never been in a setting that looks like facilities you and I treat in. That's one piece. Second piece is I don't think you can properly rehab an ACL in the majority of the physical therapy clinics that exist. Um, so, and I won't name names of those clinics, but I think we all know who we're talking about. Like you just can't. So from that standpoint, I don't know how much will change aside from educating the public and the public knowing. Because otherwise, like I said, you just can't do it. You can't get an ACL where it needs to be as much as you think you might be able to. If you cannot have your person squatting heavy, running, doing everything under the sun they will have to do when they have to go back to sport. Because that's what I'll tell every single one of my athletes. Like they'll always say, like, well, will I be able to do this when I go back? Will I be able to do this? Like, you will be able to do everything. You will have to show me you can do everything hundreds of times before I even let you go back and play. So until those things happen, I don't see unfortunately I don't see the re-tear rates changing all that much.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that something I've talked about before is the fact that, and it's not the fault standard facilities, whatever you want to call it, the more general outpatient facilities. And it's like if you can only get them to jogging, 3 months or whatever it is, then you need to have a referral source right
Yep.
away. If there's a PT place near you guys, and it's like, oh yeah, we got to the jogging, they look really good. Again, doing the little stuff well as far as setting foundation goes. Like, cool, we know Bobby who's down the road. You should go to Bobby now because we can't do anything for you. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the thing that we're trying to say is that like we understand that those types of clinics need to exist and like the surgeons own them and all that kind of stuff, and like they're going to send them to where they want to go because maybe they do whatever 6-week follow-ups. And like for at our place we used to have 6-week follow-ups, the doctor and the PT with parent patient would all come down, which I actually kind of appreciated. But at the same time, like we had heaviest dumbbell 10 pounds, heaviest kettlebell
Yep.
15 pounds, and like for me, whenever I got people 3-4 months, like you're jogging, you're looking really good, cool, go to Teddy. And I had to do it because I just didn't feel good about keeping them any longer than I possibly felt like I was benefiting them. Like, yeah, I could
Hmm.
work on balance and proprioception and stuff. But it's like, do I really want them to come in and, utilize their copays, whatever it is, to just
Hmm.
do this stuff when I understand that you need to start loading heavy and I can't load you heavy. And I think that's probably, in my opinion, one of the bigger things is that every PT clinic that sees a high volume of ACLs needs to have that relationship. And if it's not with a PT place like yours or mine, at least with a strength coach or, a local strength coach, something like that, because there needs to be open turf space. You need to be able to do reactive cutting stuff. And
Hmm.
because that's what's going to get them prepared to go back into playing sports again. If they never get a chance to like be hit or work on like reactive catching and all that kind of stuff, like how are you going to just jump from jogging to playing pickup
Hmm.
to playing in a game? There's no, there's no build up to it.
Yep.
And I think that a lot of places need to have more of a, I guess, a flowing system of a referral system in place. And I think protocols need to be updated big time. I know like Mick Hughes has more of like a criterion base,
Yeah.
which I'm actually more of a fan of.
Yep. I
Um,
am too.
yeah, and it's just these time-based protocols. So many times a patient, I'm sure you're the same thing, that comes from another place, they'll bring you the protocol and it's the same thing over and over again. It's just 6 months
I,
return to
w-
sport. And
I won't
I
wait.
tell them right away. I tell them right away,
Yeah.
I'm not clearing you until 9 months minimum.
Hmm.
I would say there's very, very rare situations where you would clear someone, like maybe like it's like a pro player as their last chance to get a paycheck. That's that kind of stuff where it
You
happens.
weigh that risk reward where you have to weigh that stuff exactly.
Yeah. But the majority of the people that we are seeing, and that's who we base the advice on, we're waiting 9, 10, hopefully close to that, like 11, 12 months, because like I tell every kid, like, you don't want to do this again. Like, one time sucks. So let's make sure we just do this the right way. And holding you out for another month is not going to be the end of the world. And if I can prevent you from re-tearing by holding you up for a little bit longer, like, we're going to take that win every single time.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm full agreement with you that there just needs to be better education, a better referral system. I think those two alone would go on to make a big difference, and even just a big dent as far as decreasing those retail rates. And you can go into, hopefully orthos are starting to hop on more with the 9 months minimum,
Yeah, they
because at
are.
the end of the day, it's their protocols, that are still. And I have a lot of kids, again, same thing as you, where a lot of people will go to get 3 different opinions for an ACL surgery. And then it'll be like, oh, first one says 9 months, second one says 9 months, third one says 6 months. I'm going
Yeah.
6 months.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it can't keep happening like this, because they're always going to take the shorter route, no matter what.
Hmm.
After an ACL, first question you always get, when can I play again? That's it. And if there's so much different information, people are always going to choose the quote unquote easier route, or whatever gets them back to playing their sport quickest. And again, these are all, there's that question that I just asked you about, what needs to improve. There's 15 different things that needs to improve upon. Um,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah. I think
definitely
that's a
agree.
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good point you made. Because, I mean, the surgeons thing, I mean, you'll see, as much as you see the variance with how PTs are treating stuff, you'll see the same thing with surgeons. Like, I can't tell you, like, I remember I had a girl, she's like 7 months out now, but surgeon worked for, Johns Hopkins of all places, wanted her on bed rest for 2 weeks, not doing nothing. Bed rest, which I'm thinking, this is Hopkins. Like, what are we doing? Um, so yeah, I mean, there just needs to be a consistent message from all practitioners involved.
Yeah. And I think the education portion is absolutely massive. I think back to one of my college girls. She walked in, she had torn ACL. I didn't see her until 2 or 3 months after, but she told me the first time she met her trainer, the trainer told her, "I was like, oh wow, like, nice to meet you. My name is blah blah blah. You're my first ACL." It's like, what in the world? My eyes would get so big, and I was like, you are instilling zero confidence into it. But again,
Yes.
in the
Yes.
college realm that you're fully aware
Yeah.
of is the fact that their turnover rate is so high. It's just there's a new trainer every 2 years or whatever it is. So like,
Yep.
inevitably you're going to get someone who has minimal to no experience treating an ACL from day one to all the way back. And I think that's another big piece as far as the college realm of why retail rates are so high. And there's no single blame. Like, it's not just
Yep.
PTs, not just ATs or surgeons. It's the whole model of how currently ACL rehab is done that needs to be improved upon. And like you said, we're blaming our own profession at the end of the day also, and we play a
Yeah,
big role into it. Yeah, it's something that I think you and I both agree. Hopefully by the time that we retire in, 40 some years, these numbers will start decreasing a little bit.
yeah.
Um,
Let's hope.
and as far as, do you have any like final, parting words or advice for any maybe students or, maybe new grads that kind of want to get into our quote unquote world, whatever you want to call it?
Um, like I said, I mean, all I can do is talk about like my own situation. I've been a PT for 5 years now, and a business owner for two of them. Um, like, try to get your name out there. Like find avenues to make a name for yourself and get yourself exposed to that world. Because, like you said, I mean, sports is such a competitive field. Everyone wants to do it. I was treating grandma as my first job, but at the same time, I was sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to turn this grandma job into something else? And I'm sitting there. I literally emailed every single, like, I played basketball in college, so I emailed every single semi-pro basketball team there was, every single high school that was in the area, just looking to volunteer my time. And one team told me yes. And so I would drive out to Annapolis, every Saturday and work with this semi-pro basketball team. Or I wrote for SB Nation, doing some injury analysis stuff, just anything I could. And you know even if that's not going to bring the pro athletes into your door, or the high level athletes into your door, when you go and you look for that job that can expose you to that stuff, it will make you a much more attractive candidate. Any employer wants to look for someone who's going above and beyond, someone who wants to live and breathe that stuff. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I really like that a lot. I think networking is obviously such a big thing. It's honestly the extra stuff, because we understand a lot of people, especially as a new grad, you're going to work in the more traditional model. It's
Mm-hmm.
common, no one's gonna pay X amount of like whatever dollars to come see you as as a high level athlete if you've never treated a high level athlete.
Yep.
But at the same time, like I was the same as you. Like I was going to work from 9 to 5:30, whatever it was, and I would drive straight to Healthy Baller and start going shadow Teddy until 8 o'clock. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't get home, so my days would be 12 hours long at that point. But still, like it was just I was there to learn from Teddy and to build a relationship with him. And luckily for me, it ended up being a job. And that's not gonna be the case for everyone. And if I never ended up working for Teddy, it would still, at least I learned from him and got to
Mm-hmm.
be exposed to that environment and understanding, like you said, like how can I get from where I am now and what steps do I need to take to get to whatever the end goal of being a sports physical therapist. I think having a structured plan in place, and it's not going to go perfectly by any means, but having just
Yeah.
going out there, putting your name out there, getting exposed to it, I think is such a sound advice that you just offered.
Yeah.
Um, and again, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I appreciate like seriously like all the content you put out. I think you're definitely one of the better sports PTs out there who are just putting out like real good information, which I think back to when I was in PT school, like I wish I had your Instagram to look at, just so it piques like interest, like it's like, how can I be, and it's not like anything crazy. It's just like, wow, like this is just different than the Therex that you're learning in schools. So I think I definitely appreciate that. And do you mind just kind of plugging in your social media and maybe your website in case people want to kind of reach out to you?
Sure. I mean, my Instagram is Bobby Sports PT, and I'm the co-owner of Impact Sports Physical Therapy here in Maryland, and our website's www.impactsportspt.com.
Cool. And I appreciate you coming on, Bobby. And if any of you guys aren't following Bobby, I highly recommend you guys follow him, particularly those who are interested in sports rehab. He's puts out a ton of really good content. And again, like I told you guys, I steal his stuff on a regular basis, and I will continue to steal the stuff that he does. It's mine to steal. He gave me permission. But at the end of the day, just thinking about, I think for all of you guys, oh gosh, sorry. I think just all of you guys just don't just mindlessly look at any exercise. Like use critical thinking about like why Bobby is doing it and why I'm putting out whatever, or anybody. I think it's we want to use these platforms to encourage critical thinking and continue learning, and that's the whole purpose behind our social medias and everything like that. So
Exactly.
definitely appreciate you coming on the show, Bobby. And I think that inevitably I'm going to have to get you on for like a part two, just because we probably could have talked for another hour, but I don't want to keep you for any
Oh,
longer.
easily,
But definitely
easily. No, I
appreciate
would
you
love
coming on
to.
the show, Bobby.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Wes.
Thank you for watching today's video. Please feel free to like and subscribe and share it on your social media platforms. If you're interested, I have started an ACL Mastermind group, which is a growing library of content centered around ACL rehab. It has exercises ranging from immediate post-op to late-stage sport-specific movements and everything in between. It's a growing library and currently holds over 250 videos. There's content centered around assessments, movement breakdowns, exercise breakdowns, case studies, and a whole lot more. You also gain access to a private forum where you can engage with like-minded people, ask questions, share research articles, and share resources. If you're interested, please feel free to click the link below. Thank you for watching.